Yo people, welcome back to the channel. So Eddie Hearn in an interview with Sky Sports suggested that if Dillian Whyte defeats Alexander Povetkin on March 6th, he will look to make a fight with Deontay Wilder for Dillian Whyte. Hearn said, first things first is March 6th for Dillian Whyte. If he loses that, then he can forget fighting Deontay Wilder and he can forget fighting for a world championship. So he must win that fight. And I agree with Eddie Hearn here. Whyte has to stay focused on Povetkin and get that rematch revenge. Otherwise, his chances of a world title fight or even a Wilder fight will be slim to none. I do believe Whyte will defeat Povetkin this time round. However, I thought Whyte would win the first fight. That just goes to show how unpredictable the heavyweight division is. I'll be uploading my fight preview for Alexander Povetkin vs Dillian Whyte 2 soon, so stay tuned for that. Hearn also said, for me, outside of AJ against Fury, Whyte Wilder remains one of the biggest fights in boxing. I would love to make that fight. I think Deontay Wilder needs to get back in the ring. I certainly wouldn't be looking to put him in with Dillian Whyte straight off the bat. He needs a fight in my opinion. Presumably, he's going to be working with a new team of trainers. End quote. So Hearn seems to want that fight. Not a surprise. I mean, a lot of people accuse Eddie Hearn of not wanting fights because supposedly he thinks his fighters will lose. But I believe that Hearn's perspective is, if it makes money, it makes sense. I think Wilder vs Whyte is quite a dangerous fight for both men, and that's what makes it so intriguing. If Whyte defeats Povetkin quite convincingly, I'd have to favour him at this point. Realistically, to judge who I think would win that fight, I'd have to see how Wilder does in his comeback fight. How will he bounce back from a devastating defeat to Tyson Fury? That loss would have been psychologically destructive for Wilder. You can tell he's not dealt with it too well, especially after all of this Mark Breland controversy, because he seems to be avoiding taking individual responsibility for his failures against Tyson Fury, which suggests to me that he still doesn't believe he has flaws that he needs to improve upon, which is far from reality. Dillian Whyte, on the other hand, seems to have took his knockout loss to Povetkin quite well. He knows he's made mistakes and is surely working to improve his game. Whyte has always had a strong work ethic, therefore I'd expect him to bounce back against Povetkin. Whyte hasn't hid since his loss to Povetkin. He's been doing loads of interviews, talking openly and honestly about his loss, and this suggests to me that he is coping as well as he could with that psychological trauma that he would have experienced from that fight. Whereas Deontay Wilder has done quite the opposite. We didn't hear from him for months after his defeat to Fury. And even now, we're only hearing from him on certain Wilder fan channels, which you're not throwing yourself in at the deep end in any way. Whereas, at least Dillian Whyte has gone on places like IFL and Sky Sports, which are friendly platforms to him, which is true, but they are mainstream platforms. So therefore, he is going to receive criticisms or tough questions from the interviewers. Who do you think would win a fight between Deontay Wilder and Dillian Whyte? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's one of those great 50-50 fights which you can't miss. There's going to be an action-packed, maybe 12 rounds of fighting between these guys. So, we should be looking forward to it. Hopefully it can be made. Hopefully Deontay Wilder's antics of, avoiding certain fighters, which we know is facts. Yeah, you can't lie about it now. Deontay Wilder exposed himself by claiming that he rejected a $100 million offer from AJ. So, that's facts. But like the video if you did enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and remember to turn on post notifications to stay notified whenever I upload a new video.